when we were planning the art fair talks for this year, we thought about the National Museum of the Philippines. And I don't think they've had any participation in the past years. And given that what they have been, how their programs have been evolving, developing in the recent years, we thought it would be good to invite the Director General of National Museum of the Philippines to share their plans and programs related to contemporary art and cultural heritage. Hence, the title Sustaining Heritage and Contemporary Legacies, the National Museum Perspective. Our guest speaker is Mr. Jeremy Barnes, Director General of the National Museum of the Philippines, a position he has held since 2010. He has demonstrated visionary leadership in transforming the museum network into a dynamic educational, scientific, and cultural institution. Through innovative programs, expanded facilities, and legislative advancements, he has elevated the museum's role in preserving Philippine heritage, fostering global partnerships, and inspiring national pride. Please welcome Jeremy Barnes.
Good morning, everyone. It's really an honor to be the first of a lineup of speakers at this year's art fair. And as our dear friend Boots said, it's a breath of fresh air to get out of the car park, which, you know, in its time was a great novelty. But it's a treat for me to see this great new building and to be out in the Triangle. I was here yesterday for quite a while, and I'm gratified that this will be another successful art fair. So thanks for having me and the National Museum. I'm joined by my colleagues, some special colleagues here. I'd like to shout out to my Deputy Directors General. We have Jarell Legaspi in the front row here. Stand up, Jarell. He's responsible for, in large part, our museum programming. So a lot of what's happened in recent years since he's been on our team is also his accomplishment. And we have our other pillar in the senior management, Deputy DG for Administration, Attorney Rosen Avila at the back there. Of course, for any institution, especially government agency, the strength of our administrative support and compliance, especially on the financial side, is fundamental to having a strong platform for doing our actual museum work. So I'm glad my two close associates in the museum are here, and then there's also people from our team, from our communications division and others. Again, let me congratulate Art Fair Philippines and its organizers, our dear friends Lisa Periquet, Dindin Araneta, Tricky Lopa, who over the years have made great strides in bringing artistic and creative bodies of work closer to people. And we also commend Boots Herrera for being at the helm of this year's programming and offering us the opportunity to discuss the role of the National Museum in bridging Filipino artistic expression with our diverse audiences. I'm speaking, of course, to a very familiar, there's lots of familiar faces here. It's great to see some people have come from the States and other countries because art fair is always an event. I know I'm speaking to people who are very knowledgeable about museums and art, and so forgive me though if this may be in large part preaching to the choir or showing you things you already know, but just in case there are people out there who are not so familiar with the National Museum or even museums, museum practices in general, please bear with me. Of course, museums serve as cultural anchors in their communities, creating spaces that foster dialogue, promote inclusion, and reinforce collective memory. Those of us who have chosen this professional path or career hold a unique responsibility as custodians and stewards of heritage and patrimony and as catalysts that help shape progressive societies. It gives me immense pleasure today to have the opportunity to share the work we do, and I will be presenting on the historical foundations of our practice and the many ways we have been mediating between heritage and contemporary practices. So just by way of a brief overview, we are a trust of the government, an educational, scientific, and cultural institution. Our charter, the National Museum of the Philippines Act, last updated in 2019, sought to strengthen and provide all the legal bases for us to conduct our mandate and functions. We foster and contribute to Philippine nation building by establishing museums around the country. This remains still a lesser known part of our work, but becoming more and more headlighted with the years. Currently, we have an expansive network of over 20 component museums nationwide, all of them equally integral to the success and continuity of our operations. So these are, of course, in Manila and across 4 regional, super regional clusters: Northern Central Luzon, Southern Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So 2 years ago was a milestone in the opening of our Cebu Museum, which I hope you'll have a chance to visit if you haven't already. And last year, our upgraded Tabon Cave Museum in Southern Palawan, and at the start of December, our Davao Museum. And this year, we will be opening museums in Central Luzon, specifically in Baler, followed by Clark. So when people ask what's new at the National Museum, I often have to tell them that there might not be something new here in our central museums, because a lot of what we're working on and what is new is happening around the country in the regions. As a whole, we in 2024 welcomed over 3.8 million visitors, representing increasing engagement among young audiences and primarily domestic tourists. So this kind of number encourages to develop even more museums nationwide and look for opportunities to collaborate with local governments, stakeholders, academic partners. Historically, our experience of engaging with Philippine art dates back to the late 19th century, a period of remarkable artistic production with the likes of Juan Luna, Felix Resurrection Hidalgo, and others achieving international recognition. Luna's Spoliarium, which, as most of us know, won the gold prize at the 1884 Exposición Nacional de Bellas Artes in Madrid, underwent stages of restoration after being damaged during World War II in Spain, and in an act of cultural diplomacy was gifted by the Spanish government to the Philippines in 1958 and unveiled in 1962. The masterpiece, as I'm sure you'll agree, has become synonymous with the National Museum and remains as one of the most visited and photographed works of art within our galleries. 3 years after Luna's victory in 1884, the Exposición General de las Islas Filipinas was held in 1887 in Madrid. Pedro Paterno played a significant role in organizing this showcase of the Philippines' natural resources, ethnographic diversity, and artistic heritage to a Spanish audience. As a key cultural mediator, he facilitated the inclusion of Philippine artifacts, indigenous crafts, and artworks, and helped to shape the narrative of the colony's cultural and economic potential. Paterno used his influence to promote Filipino identity within the colonial framework, emphasizing the richness of Philippine civilization while aligning with Spain's assimilationist agenda. He advocated for the representation of indigenous peoples, whose presence at the exposition, while controversial up to this day, was framed as an opportunity to demonstrate Spain's so-called civilizing mission. Paterno's participation in the exposition reflected his broader ambition of cultural diplomacy, positioning himself as an intermediary between Filipino elites and Spanish authorities, while advancing his vision of greater Filipino participation in colonial affairs. Soon after the exposition, the first precursor institution that led to today's National Museum was established by Spanish royal decree on August 12, 1887. This was the Museo Biblioteca de Filipinas. And so today, we have adopted August 12, 1887 as the foundation date of the National Museum to really highlight all the precursors of museum institutions covering a national scope in our country's history. At the time, the Gaceta de Madrid described the institution as a center of study where the fruits of scientific discoveries and knowledge are made accessible to the public, contributing to the quote-unquote wealth and progress of the Philippine Islands. Now, it's important to emphasize, to highlight Paterno and the Museo Biblioteca because Paterno himself would eventually become the fourth and first Filipino director in 1894. We are fairly sure, though much research needs to be done, that it was due to Paterno's lobbying in the first place that the Museo Biblioteca was established. The first, national museum in the Philippines was established in the first place in 1887. In any case, his career in the arts and culture laid the groundwork for future Filipino artists and curators who would actively define their own narratives. So even before our National Museum as we know it formally took shape, these early efforts in collecting, commissioning, exhibiting Philippine art and ethnographic materials reflected a growing awareness of the need to document and define a national cultural identity, particularly during a time when European styles through colonial influences largely shaped how Philippine art was perceived. With the turn of the 20th century, the American period transformed not only the face of Manila, but the tastes and sensibilities of Filipinos as well. The rise of industrialization, consumerism, gave way to the early creative industries and a new breed of working artists, for example, Guillermo Tolentino, Fernando Amorsolo, began to dominate the scene. In terms of our built heritage, architects like Juan Arellano, Tomas Mapua, Andres Luna de San Pedro, Antonio Toledo, many others, left such an indelible mark which has endured the test of time. The National Museum system also underwent decades of change with the development of various institutions that were created and abolished, merged, recreated, and so on, as well as the national collections that kind of were merged and split, dispersed, brought back together. All these, though, would tragically face destruction during World War II. And this weekend, so tomorrow actually, we're celebrating the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Manila. And specifically, we in the museum commemorate the destruction of the museum on what was the last stand of the Battle of Manila in 1945. After World War II, the National Museum took on a renewed purpose in nation building. As the country sought to recover from the devastation of war and the loss of our national collections, cultural institutions became spaces for reconstructing and reaffirming national identity, particularly on the occasion and after independence from the United States in 1946. Philippine modernist movements, which had started in the 1920s, gained renewed traction, and artists such as Jose Joya, Vicente Manansala, H.R. Ocampo, Cesar Legaspi found support within the National Museum's collections and exhibitions. So here are some photos. The top left is Jose Joya handing over his famous painting, Hills of Nico, to the then director of the museum, Godofredo Alcacid. On the right is Mr. and Mrs. Nuida, with then director Gemma Cruz Araneta. Those who know our collection will see that self-portrait by Jaime de Guzman, which was exhibited and later acquired by the museum, and others. Yeah. Next slide, please. As director from 1962 to 1968, Galo Ocampo modernized the National Museum by expanding its collections, incorporating modern and contemporary Filipino art, and strengthening conservation efforts. A pioneering modernist painter himself, he advocated for the recognition of evolving artistic expressions, supporting younger artists and promoting Filipino participation in international exhibitions. He also advanced cultural research and heritage preservation, integrating archaeology, anthropology, and visual arts to enrich national identity. He was extraordinarily influential, and under his leadership, the museum also became more accessible through the first systematic educational programs and public engagements, reinforcing our role as both custodian of heritage and as platform for contemporary discourse. In 1965, the Philippine government, advised by Galo Ocampo, commissioned, as an example, Carlos Botong Francisco to create this artwork First Mass in Limasawa, and others, such as the presentation of the Santo Niño, also by Botong, the raising of the first cross by Magellan, by Manansala, and others, to commemorate the 400th year of Christianity in the Philippines in 1965. So, and those paintings I mentioned are on display in the National Museum in Cebu. Galo Ocampo's tenure helped bridge traditional and modern artistic sensibilities, ensuring that Philippine art and culture remained dynamic and relevant. And so with the work we're doing today, we're really animated by the spirit of those times, the early 60s, when the National Museum started really going into dynamic programming and really seeking social relevance. Galo Ocampo was succeeded by Gemma Cruz Araneta, who we revere to this day, and I hope to see during this art fair. She served as director from 1968 to 1971, of course, the first woman to hold the position, among many other milestones, the youngest ever director. I don't think it's easy to beat because she became director at 26 years of age. Her tenure was marked by significant strides in modernizing the museum and expanding its role in cultural preservation. Among her accomplishments was strengthening museum research and conservation programs, particularly in archaeology and anthropology, which contributed to a deeper understanding of pre-colonial history. She collaborated with many artists to include their works in our national collection. And these include Ben Cab, Jaime de Guzman, Angelito Antonio, many, many others. I hope that, Gemma always loves to share what she did at the time, and I hope she has the opportunity, if she hasn't already, to talk about that, on her own, right? But definitely to this day, she continues to contribute to our cultural and artistic life here in the Philippines by co-curating exhibitions and bridging relationships with artists and patrons. She played an essential role during her time as director in enhancing our public engagement, making collections more accessible to the Filipino people through exhibitions and outreach. And we intensified its efforts under her leadership to protect and promote cultural heritage, aligning with a broader cultural revival movement of the late 60s. And her international connections helped foster collaborations with foreign institutions, further elevating the National Museum status within the global museum community. So we have some pictures of Gemma with then Manila Mayor Antonio Villegas, who himself commissioned many artworks for public buildings in Manila at the time, most notably the grand mural by Botong Francisco that you can today see at the National Museum of Fine Arts on the history of Manila, and some of the paintings that whose acquisition dates to her time. During the martial law era, so we're talking from basically in the mid-70s onwards, the cultural landscape was complex. Artists and intellectuals engaged in forms of resistance, some overt, others embedded in artistic practice. The museum as an institution played an ambivalent role at the time. It participated in state-sponsored cultural programs, but also became a repository of works that in various ways reflected the tensions of the time. While the administration sought to use culture as an instrument of soft power, such as the creation of the core collection of the Philippine Center in New York in 1974, which we were able to loan for exhibition, bringing it back home between 2021 and 2023, before returning them back to New York last year. This collection featured 115 artworks by 52 prominent Filipino artists of the 70s. 9 of whom would later become national artists: Ang Kok, Arturo Luz, Ben Cab, Vicente Manansala, Legazpi, Elizalde Navarro, Alquaz, and his son Christian is here, yes. Jose Joya, H.R. Ocampo. And for those who know this period, would recall that Arturo Luz himself was asked by the then First Lady Imelda Marcos to put this collection together for shipment to New York. And people, and some artists whose collection is included, like Raul Isidro, who I saw the other day, told me that they weren't paid for their paintings. So, yeah. So we'll see what we can do about that 50 years later. Yeah. In the decades that followed, we strengthened partnerships with local and international institutions, collaborated with artists and their estates to expand our modern and contemporary art collections. And since the pandemic, we've embraced our reopening as our next wave of transformation, a chance to think beyond our museum walls and contribute to deepen appreciation and education by providing technical and museological assistance and outreach more extensively. So now I will talk about the National Museum as a mediator between heritage and contemporary art. Apart from being custodians of artistic heritage, responsible for collections spanning pre-colonial artifacts to contemporary works, we learned during the pandemic to harness any opportunity to engage and facilitate conversations through our collections in ways that remain relevant to contemporary audiences. We couldn't, of course, rely during the pandemic on people walking in, on your traditional museum visits. But we still had to justify our existence during those years, of course, and so we had to innovate. In 2022, we embarked on an exhibition project with national artist Kidlat Tahimik, not expecting that it would spark a long, collaborative, and fulfilling artistic relationship. The exhibition, which featured works that had been shipped back from Madrid, where they had been exhibited in 2021 at the Palacio Cristal, which was the same venue as the 1887 Exposition de Islas Filipinas, which, upon learning that Tatay Kidlat drew inspiration from that, as you could see with the works that he would create. So when they all came back home from Spain, these works occupied 2 floors of our National Museum of Anthropology for over a year. And they ended up revitalizing the indigenous spirit in the museum space and were extremely popular with young visitors and families for their quirky yet compelling storytelling attributes. Our team immersed ourselves in Kidlat's artistic process, balancing basic museological practice with his organic kapa-kapa method, and working with him on public programs from roundtables to guided tours and film screenings throughout the year. The body of work featured in that exhibition, again, breathed new life into historical colonial narratives, ensuring that the museum kind of remained a dynamic space at the same time, where artistic expression was so powerful. And the journey didn't really end either with the conclusion of the exhibit, because Tatay Kidlat was then inspired to donate a significant portion of his works, including those of his wife Katrin, his children Kidlat, Kawayan, Kabunyan, all of whom are renowned artists. And the seminal kind of new contemporary collection that this formed also included his monumental installation of the ship depicting Magellan and Enrique de Malacca's voyage that eventually landed in Mactan. And this led to a project to actually bring that sculpture to Mactan, to Cebu Mactan International Airport, where it's now located prominently at the departures area. And this is the first time that works from the National Museum collection were displayed as public art in this way. So if you go to Cebu or flying in or out of Cebu internationally, you'll find this at Terminal 2 together with some other works. And so it's a successful, or so far successful, collaboration with the airport management, which is a private sector firm. And in this way, of course, you'll see that we are trying to extend programs beyond the museums, fostering innovative approaches in promoting artistic expression and appreciation. In October 2023, another large-scale intervention was installed at the courtyard of the National Museum of Anthropology as a special commission for a Halloween event. This is Leroy New's Balay Balete, or Balete House. Balete being a strangler fig, for the non-Filipinos in the room. Strangler fig house. And it comprises almost 2,000 discarded plastic water containers, so your water dispenser bottles, right? Creating a towering, immersive enclosure representing Philippine folklore. And it was installed just before the end of Tatay Kidlat's Indio-Genius exhibit, creating an amusing dialogue of pre-colonial narratives among the different visual components. And it remained in this venue for over a year, and now you can find it at the Pinto Art Museum. Yeah. So, especially for our visitors from out of town, hope during this sojourn in Manila you can go to visit Pinto as well, which is an excellent destination museum. Yeah. Just last year, December, we launched another commissioned installation in time for the inauguration of our newest museum in Davao City that I mentioned. Ahungan sa Panaghiusa by the artist Kublai Millan is the centerpiece that welcomes visitors to the museum and is the result of a major collaborative undertaking. The artist Kublai worked with over 50 Manobo weavers and their families who meticulously handcrafted large-scale, what are represent gongs, representing harmony throughout Mindanao. Ahungan sa Panaghuisa. So, Jarell, what's that mean in Bisaya? Gongs of harmony. Okay, yes. So the 9 handcrafted gongs, when installed, were suspended across an atrium integrating 4 floors of our museum building and are meant to convey ideas of harmony in nature, religion, and community. And the latest addition to what's on display in the lobby of our National Museum Davao is Davao Industries, newly restored oil and canvas by national artist Victorio Edades, loaned from the Bangko Sentral ng Filipinas, that was commissioned in 1982 by then Governor and everyone's good friend, Jaime Laya, but commissioned for the Central Bank Davao branch. So it's never been in Manila at the main branch or in the Central Bank Museum that many of us are familiar with. This is known only to a few people, and it was important for us to work with the Central Bank to bring it out into a public space. In fact, yeah, it originally served as the centerpiece of the Bangko Sentral Regional Office and Convention Center. It was meant as an icon, as an artistic icon, showing the different industries of the Davao region. And of course, for those familiar with the work of Edades, you will conclude, number one, that it's a superb example of his style, even though it was very late in his life and career. And number two, that it's the largest Edades you'll ever see. So it's really quite monumental. It was a heartfelt tribute from Edades to Davao, where he spent his retirement years. He was born in Pangasinan, north of Manila, but he spent the last 3 decades of his life in Davao, of his long life. Yeah. It honors the hardworking Davaoeños, whose contributions, of course, shaped the growth and prosperity of the region. And it serves as a perfect conversation starter or springboard for visitors at our new museum in Davao. Yeah. Changing topic, let me highlight our great fulfillment also that we get in bringing works of national significance into the public sphere, where they can spark new conversations, new impressions, find renewed relevance in modern times and contexts. So in October 2023, Bust of Juan Luna by Mariano Benlliure, the Spanish friend of Luna, Hidalgo, and their group from their student days in Rome, and then their later lives in Madrid and in Paris. This bust was thought to have been lost in the 1945 destruction of the museum, the legislative building specifically, and bringing it out became was the opportunity to present a remarkable story of recovery, and of course of goodwill, since the owner who had this stored for many years and who only knew of the provenance of this object, being from the National Museum before World War II, was moved to return it to us. And so we wanted to highlight such acts of goodwill from those who become our patrons And we also remember this in this way our roles as protectors of the artistic legacies of those before us. The recovery of artworks such as these are a great testament to the public's commitment to nation building by returning or gifting works of historical art to the Filipino people. And this leads me to one of our latest milestones. So in a rare and significant move to bring invaluable works of art to the public via purchase, in this case, we managed to secure the approval of our board to save this clay sculpture, Josephine Sleeping, by Dr. Jose Rizal, from remaining in private hands in an auction last November. It depicts Rizal's companion, and who would ultimately, we are among those who believe that she did become his wife in the last moments of his life, of course, Josephine Bracken. It depicts her in a tender moment of slumber, and we feel that this sculpture goes very far in helping humanize our national hero and visualizing the intimacy he shared with her in the midst of his own life's turmoils. And we unveiled this work in a simple public ceremony last Rizal Day, December 30, at the Spoliarium Hall of the National Museum of Fine Arts, where it is surrounded, of course, by the works of his friends and contemporaries, Luna, Hidalgo, and Benlliure. Seriously taking our role in heritage conservation, and we take very seriously our role in heritage conservation, understanding, as you would expect, the complexities of various projects and the importance of consultative practice. And doing so strengthens our relationships with artists and professionals within heritage circles. For many years, we have been sharing our knowledge and expertise in artwork conservation and restoration, and extending technical assistance to fellow government agencies. Last year, we successfully restored 4 paintings from the collection of the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C., one of which was this amorsolo of a sabongero, or owner of fighting cocks. Fighter in English, which was in extraordinarily bad condition and needed weeks of meticulous restoration work. And of course, these kinds of projects are made possible by the conservators and technicians who actually actively work on conservation projects to maintain and preserve these works for generations to come. So directors may come and go and be a dime a dozen, but I tell you, we in the museum, we regard our conservators and other technical staff. I'm sure it's the same at Ateneo Art Gallery. They're worth their weight in gold. Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's very hard, and it's one of our priorities among the museum community is really how to strengthen our conservation capabilities. Aside from collaborations with owners of collections and conservators, we also work, of course, with the artists themselves and other creators in preventive conservation of their art. We recently completed the restoration and relocation of Sentinel of Freedom, maybe more widely known as the Lapu-Lapu Monument, located within our museum complex in Rizal Park. This had suffered structural issues beneath its original pedestal and needed immediate intervention. And in close collaboration with the artist, Juan Sajid Imao, we temporarily disassembled the statue for repair and restoration. And it's there for everyone to admire in its new location at the front of the central part of our complex in Maria Orosa Street. In addition to collaborative restoration projects, the museum also has in-house technicians who are primarily responsible for cleaning and preserving artworks in the collections. And because we're able to maintain adequate conservation conditions for key artworks, we're able then to loan them to international organizations and further widen our global reach and network. Take, for example, the artwork you see here, which is a painting by Nena Sagil, Untitled, 1972, which was recently cleaned by our technician. Is that Chona? Yes, by Miss Chona, one of our technicians. And this was done in preparation for its loan to the Venice Biennale last year. The first time, I'm very proud to say, that the National Museum of the Philippines ever participated in the main exhibition. And we are fairly sure it's maybe the first time a Philippine work of art was brought from the Philippines to the main exhibition of the Venice Biennale. And so you could see it there in the Arsenale Pavilion. No, I'm sorry, the Giardini Pavilion. Yeah, yeah. So a proud moment for us to see a work from our collection to be displayed alongside artists from various time periods and regions, seemingly, and this is of course the genius of curation, seemingly sharing the same artistic spirit and language. This was the main exhibit, Stranieri Ovunque, or Foreigners Everywhere, by Adriano Pedrosa, yes, from Brazil, yeah, from Sao Paulo, yeah. We also previously loaned, or recently loaned, a portrait quite well known by Hidalgo of the first Filipino diplomat, Felipe Agoncillo. This went to the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. for the exhibition 1898, U.S. Imperial Visions and Revisions, which featured the complex narratives of 20th century American colonies, such as Hawaii, Guam, Cuba, and the Philippines, as told through portraiture. The 1957 self-portrait by David Medalla was also featured in a retrospective at the Hammer Museum in Los Angeles, titled In Conservation with the Cosmos, shedding light on the beginnings of a brilliant, pioneering Filipino artist. So we are very proud to send that over, as well as the next work, Imelda Cahipe Endaya's Taghoy Piglas from the National Museum, currently on loan to the Museum of Modern Contemporary Art in Seoul, Korea, for the exhibition Asian Women Artists Connecting Bodies. This particular loan is also significant for its contribution to representation of women artists in Asia. Here at home, we also have a special exhibition gallery dedicated to Filipino women artists. Since 2019, we have featured the works of Impi Pilapil, Virginia T. Navarro, Lenore R.S. Lim. And this year, we are looking forward to launching a new exhibition in the space, featuring a retrospective of abstract works by Phyllis Zaballero. We also provide a platform for multidisciplinary collaborations. In 2023, we held the first edition of Kislap Diwa at the National Museum of Anthropology, led by National Artist for Literature, Virgilio Almario, supported by the patron of many cultural projects, Senator Lauren Legarda. The exhibition featured new works of art paired with poetry, inspired by the museum's collections. So created through more than a dozen pairings of visual artists and poets. We also explore ways of cross-programming with fellow cultural agencies, art collections, and groups to foster a shared appreciation for diverse collections and curatorial interests. We're currently hosting an exhibit of works from the 21st Century Art Museum of the CCP. So many of us will recognize Abueva's harpoon there. It was a wonderful moment to bring that into the National Museum. One of the works I've always been jealous of the CCP for. Yeah. And we are also partnering with the Cultural Center of the Philippines on this year's Ternocon exhibition, which will be on view starting next week, and the CCP 13 Artists exhibition later this year. Of course, for those of you who know, a lot of us are collaborating with the CCP by way of support, while the Cultural Center of the Philippines main building is undergoing long-delayed and much-needed retrofitting and upgrading, which will take several years to come. And so we're all pitching in to help one of our foremost culture and art institutions, the CCP, and consequently having many, many collaborations. It is through these partnerships that we're able to support and sustain the cultural ecosystem in the Philippines. And we are fortunate to be in the position to share our resources in the spirit of our public service and with the objective of giving universal access to our cultural and artistic heritage. We're grateful for the support of our very active trustees on our board, patrons and donors, saw quite a few of them yesterday here at Art Fair, We also acknowledge civic groups such as, of course, the Museum Foundation of the Philippines, where the organizers of Art Fair all did their tour of duty. Lisa, Dindin, Tricky were all part of Museum Foundation, and they've handed it over to many other people who have become strong friends and supporters of the National Museum, as well as the Heritage Conservation Society and many other groups who often involve us in their initiatives and contribute to our public programs. So this year, the Museum Foundation of the Philippines will be hosting a series of public talks, as they did last year, and also organizing a special screening of Lost Conversations, which is a YouTube series created by art historian Sid Reyes and Melvin Mangada, to be held at the Fine Arts Museum soon, March 7. We also, of course, value our partnerships with the private sector, particularly inspiring the next generation of artists to pursue their passions, hone their craft, as it were. Last year, the National Museum hosted the launch and held the exhibition of the 57th Shell Philippines National Students Art Competition, which extended its scope to include aspiring digital artists and photographers. Towards fashion, with the resurgence of fashion events post-pandemic, designers and organizers have been looking at cultural sites and tourist attractions as venues for creative runway shows. In the last 3 years since the pandemic, we have hosted some very well-attended shows that have reimagined our spaces to convey an artistic experience. Among these include the 10th year anniversary of Michael Leyva in 2022, the launch of the Manila collection of planes and prints featuring images by artist Mark Nickdow in 2023, and the Sofa Design Institute graduation show in 2024. We have also made significant steps in integrating with and supporting creative industries. In December 2023, we hosted the exhibition 50 Years of Philippine Design and Beyond at the National Museum of Fine Arts, which was a collaboration with the Design Center of the Philippines and the Department of Trade and Industry. Now, this exhibit showed how Filipino design evolved throughout half a century, what stories objects hold, and how they impacted the creative and cultural landscape of the Philippines. The National Museum's role as the space for these exhibitions demonstrates our commitment and contribution to bringing art, both historical and now more and more contemporary, to the public. Hopefully it also served as an impetus for working towards a museum of design, which many sectors in the Philippines feel is due. Yeah. Art inspires more art, as I'm sure you'll agree. Last year we supported the Filipino band Oranges and Lemons in the filming of their music video for their single La Bulaqueña, inspired by Luna's painting Una Bulaqueña. This collaboration again shows how we are open these days to going beyond traditional boundaries by exploring the ever-evolving artistic expressions we see happening today. And I will now go with the same artwork, which is a national cultural treasure, is in the process of being approved for a 1-year loan to the Louvre Abu Dhabi, beginning this summer. So it will be our first collaboration with an institution such as Louvre Abu Dhabi, and the first time in 30 years that Una Bulaqueña will be leaving the Philippines. So we're very excited to bring her out and about again, especially to Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates, which is the home to hundreds of thousands of Filipinos abroad. Millions if you include the wider Gulf region. So we're very happy to have this opportunity for great pride among Filipinos in the Middle East by being represented by this masterpiece in one of the region's top cultural institutions. So we're very excited about that. So, and not only beyond giving pride to Filipinos abroad and who will visit, it also, if you know Louvre Abu Dhabi, they plan to integrate our Filipino masterpiece within their universal narrative of 19th century art history. So we're very confident our work by Luna will stand up to the other works in that particular hall, which includes some of the great Impressionists and other works of the last half of the 19th century. So we're very confident that Luna and Philippine art will really hold its own in that context. So that's very exciting for us. Looking ahead, we'd like you to come away from this talk appreciating that we've always held the National Museum to be more than just a repository of artifacts and artworks, and that it is a space where history is told and retold, where artistic expression is nurtured, and where cultural narratives are continually reshaped. So I think for those of you who have visited the museum in recent years, we hope that you've sensed a certain dynamic quality in the galleries, in our public spaces. And we really mean for that dynamism to propel our activities moving forward as we reach more and more people. We reconnect with our existing audiences. And definitely we are mindful that moving forward, the challenge is not just to preserve, but to innovate. The museum must continue to evolve, embracing new media, fostering international collaborations, and above all, ensuring that art remains an accessible and integral part of public life for as many Filipinos as possible, and for all our friends who come to visit from around the world. In doing so, we reaffirm what we believe to be the museum's most vital role as a bridge between past and present, between heritage and contemporary practice, and between the Philippines and the world. So with that, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was quite a comprehensive presentation. Thank you for sharing everything that you're doing. I think we can consider this as a recibo. No? At least our taxpayers' money is doing good in the cultural sector. To be honest, I didn't really, I wasn't aware of some of the programs because they're mostly in the back room, for example. But let me just look at my notes first. We also, it's actually very gratifying to see large groups of school children or visitors, families on Sundays, especially since entrance to the museum is already free. For how many years now?
Since 2016.
Okay, so, and that explains the millions of visitors, no? At least even just in the National Museum Manila, but more so increasing more in the regional or other museums outside of Luzon, no? Like in Cebu and Davao.
Yes.
My question is, how would you describe, is there a difference with the engagement of visitors now than before? How they go around the exhibitions? Because definitely the younger generation has a different, but I guess that's their language of appreciation. No? So can you describe in general, is there, how different age groups of visitors engage with the museum exhibitions and programs?
Well, thanks, Boots. And yeah, I did want to give value for this time slot and really take the opportunity to share as much as possible. And yeah, I know that we covered a lot of ground here, and I'm hoping I can answer questions about any aspect that I talked about. With the visitors, yeah, I was waving my cell phone because, you know, this has just taken over how people behave in many different spheres, including in coming to the museum. You know, people look at things through their phone, even if the object is right in front of them. You know, store them away for later, because you know the purpose of so many of our younger visitors, and not so young. I mean, some of people my age, even older, have also taken to the cell phone culture, right? Have also discarded the old way of looking and visiting. It's really a social purpose. You go to the museum with your friends. If you're not with your friends, or not all your friends are with you, you store that experience away so you can share it with them, and your wider group of followers or what have you. So we're really trying to accommodate experiences being registered through your cell phones and through your social media platforms, and so on and so forth. So we're working on that. We are working on the introduction of QR codes through the museum. There's still a discussion about that. I, for one, am not too hot about it. I still think we need to have enough information in the traditional way without having to force people to go onto QR codes like some museums in other countries are doing. It's an ongoing discussion, but we're doing it to provide extra information that normally you would get from a guide or from a catalog. And that's one of the things Jarell and his team is working on. We are working on our app for those so that we can have more information instantly accessible. People are increasingly not expecting to talk to a warm body, to ask the docent more information. They tend to prefer looking it up on their own and privately. And so we're working on providing that information. At the same time, we'll always be ready to cater to the old school visitors, of having people who have the information, who can point you towards the knowledge you're asking about, who can talk about the artworks, and who can facilitate, that kind of traditional visit. So obviously, that's always going to be the gold standard, at least while I'm around, to have that traditional classic museum experience. At the same time, I'm not sure how far these new ways of visiting will go, but it's unfolding before our eyes. You could go and see down to the hall with the spoliarium, and every single person will be looking at it through their phone. It's something that we have to think about constantly, to grapple with. That's exactly, yeah.
It's also about giving visitors options on how to engage, get information. And I can say that we also have the same approach. We use more QR code now, but we try also to have something printed. No? Sorry, let me just go. Another thing that struck me in your presentation was actually how much collaboration National Museum did with visual artists during the time, particularly of Galo Ocampo, commissioning. No, it's not often known that those paintings that you cited by Botong were actually commissioned.
Well, they were commissioned by the Philippine government,
Okay.
which was celebrating the 400 years of Christianity in the Philippines in 1965.
But not for the National Museum
No,
collection.
well, they ended up in the National
Okay.
Museum, so I don't have an actual document.
Right.
Yeah, but I think we can conclude that there was a commission, and it was intended that they would end up in the
Right.
museum. Yeah.
Maybe you can share some information also about the earlier mural that Botong did for the Philippine World Fair in 1953.
Yes.
The works are there any existing works, not only by Botong, but other artists who were involved in that project?
Yeah. So yes, Carlos Francisco aka Botong, was the foremost historical
Muralist.
painter and definitely muralist of his time. In 1953, he created his large-scale oil oil on plywood mural for the 1953 International Fair in Luneta or Rizal Park. Unfortunately, after the fair, yeah, they weren't formally preserved, and they ended up they ended up being dismembered, all the panels, and large parts of them ended up in the National Library, but were not recognized as collection. They're part of their collection, and so they were more or less treated like disposable or scrap materials.
Okay.
Used by the carpenters if they needed a piece of plywood for something, like a doorstop or, yeah. And then about 10 years ago, we finally scoured the library for any remaining pieces, and they're at the
a few,
National
no?
Museum right
Okay.
now. Not so many pieces, maybe about 7 or
You showed
8.
me yeah, around.
Yeah, I showed them to you, right? So there are some large pieces about as large as the blind, but that would have been one piece out of 40, right? Yeah. It's really a pity. But Botong made many studies,
Studies, yeah.
sketches, studies, and larger scale studies for that work. And one set of studies is in the collection of Ayala Museum. Another set I just saw at auction the other day. So these are around and documented, so we know what, together with the surviving pieces and photographs of when it was when the fair was being held, we have a sense of the scale.
Right.
And of course, Botong redid this kind of historical pageantry of Philippine history in other works, but not to the same scale.
Right.
But he certainly refined some of the key elements that I guess he thought were especially successful, like the charge of Bonifacio
Yes.
and yeah.
And the Gombursa, no?
Exactly.
With the Manila City Hall
Yes, with
Commission.
the history of Manila
Yes.
mural that you can see in the National Museum. Yeah.
Okay, before I hand the questions to the audience,
Yes.
would you have any information on the other cultural artifacts that were lost in during the bombing of the building? Not
No, yeah,
aside from the.
that's a great question. So the collections of the National Museum were in 3 locations, at least three locations in 1945. The ethnographic or anthropological archaeological collection was in a building behind Manila Hotel in the port area.
Okay.
That was the main National Museum building before the war, and that was wiped out. The art collection was in the basement of the Legislative Building,
Okay.
and that was wiped out. And the natural history collection was in the Bureau of Science in Pedro Hill, what was Calle Heran, now Pedro Hill, and that was wiped out as well. The only things that survived because they were in other places. Like the paintings that did survive, most of them we know survived because they were at Malacanang Palace
Okay.
on display. That is how Bulaqueña survived. And other works like El Golfo by Luna, La Enferma by Hidalgo,
yeah.
and a few other things. And that's kind of about what we knew before this bust of Luna appeared. We don't have an inventory tabling up the losses
Right.
or what was recovered and where. Maybe there are papers and documents out there. So it's for some keen researcher maybe to try to find. But the short answer is no, we don't have any information, but we are mindful of what was lost
Right.
because we do have the catalogs published in the late 30s.
Okay.
And with no pictures though. So we have an idea of what was lost. We have some pictures of the museum, like in the second slide, I think, was a picture of the gallery before the war. So there is as demonstrated by the Luna bust, there is a possibility that there are things out there that survive somehow.
And hopefully would find its way back to the museum.
Yeah. Well, yes, in due course.
Yes. So much of what you have now were acquired after the war. So
Everything,
that's a lot.
everything
actually.
you all see at the museum, all our museums, has been, I mean, 99.99%. So maybe with the exception of 20, 30 objects,
Right.
has all been acquired and built up since World War II. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you're getting a few more donations.
And
no?
yes, all the time.
Which is
all
good.
the time. We're actively soliciting gifts and donations. We, through our network, we always try to let people know we're available to consider, gifts, especially of certain, works by certain artists to fill gaps.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can.
We have
ask
some of those people in the room from whom we hope for future gifts.
Hint, hint.
They know who they are.
Yes. We have a question.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Matthew.
Beautiful presentation. My question is, what is next for the National Museum? Because I've noticed you've been doing a lot of regional museums across the country. What are the next things we should be looking at for the National Museum? And my second question is, I know you're a big enthusiast with built heritage. So could you tell us more about that collection of built heritage that I've noticed is like coming up to, I've been seeing some pieces show up within the museum. So could you tell more about that? Thank you.
Well, thanks, Matthew. You kind of gave a hint to part of the answer. So right now, our thrust is really to reach the objective of having a presence in every region of the Philippines. So there are 17 regions, including national capital. So 16 regions beyond Metro Manila. And we are in 14 of them. There are 2 regions left. Or rather, sorry, we're in 13 of them. We're working on the 14th, and there are 2 more after that we have to initiate. So once we do that, we've ticked that box, because it's in our law that we have to strive towards that goal. And then it's a question of, in certain regions, even though we're present, we can definitely enhance our presence. So we'll always be working on deepening our work in the regions. But beyond that, we also want to enhance our competencies in other areas of the fine arts, other areas of museology. We need to perhaps build up more of our education and training function, produce more museum workers in various fields, from especially on the conservation side. We need to enhance our scientific side, definitely. And we also want to help venture into new areas like fashion and design, to really give that museum foundation to those policies that seek to position the Philippines as a leader in the creative industries. So something like that, which a lot of people believe in and are very enthusiastic about, needs that museum foundation as a reference, as inspiration, as a kind of academic, well, together with the universities, as a kind of academic base for our designers to draw from and to help keep alive in our minds what is Filipino at the same time, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of directions we can go. We need more space for the things we do. Our museums have already filled up, and we are receiving more gifts. which we need to keep encouraging because there are more artists that need to be represented. There are gaps that always open up that need to be filled. If we're to really hold ourselves up as that resource for Filipino arts and culture, we need to make sure that we strive to represent everything that's worth representing. So yeah, Matthew, it's never ending. We will need more space, which means more buildings. You talked about built heritage, so we are having, as one of our major projects this year, we'll be launching an exhibition on Philippine Art Deco. So that goes from architecture to fine and applied arts. And that will be opening in June. Is it June, Jurel? Yes. They'll be opening in June, and there'll be a sub-exhibit in our National Museum in Iloilo, because Iloilo is home to a lot of built heritage in Art Deco style. So that's a pioneering effort, and we want to do more of that, for sure, Matthew. And we need more space so that we can have exhibits that you find in, for example, at the Met in New York. They have whole wings devoted to interiors and exteriors that are noteworthy for their art and architectural history. We want to be able to dream that we can go in that direction, build a collection of Philippine furniture, architectural elements, applied art, move way more into applied art from the fine arts, and so on and so forth.
So the concept of a museum of design is really in the works.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And that's actually a very logical direction given the creative focus on the creative industries. How you would complement creative practices with grounding on historical materials development. So,
and for this audience and for this occasion of Art Fair, we also are looking hard at how we can really support contemporary artists. Yeah, like, does that mean we need to have a state-sponsored, like, National Museum of Contemporary Art? Is that what our contemporary artists need the most from institutions like us? How can we be a patron to our artists? Of course, we can occasionally commission some works. Anyway, there's a lot of thinking and discussion that we need to have, how we can really support what the objectives of Art Fair Philippines is, and push Filipino contemporary art and the work of our artists further. Yeah. Right. So what's the role of the National Museum? What's the role of the government? And so on. Yeah.
How it complements private initiatives, no?
And the answer to that we all agree on, in our will be a driver of our future work as well. So, yeah.
Actually, in relation to that, I also wanted to ask, will you be collaborating more with other institutions, both cultural and non-cultural, that have art collections? So BSP, of course, you have a few already. Do you have a few of their collection?
Yes,
You do, no?
We have several
apart
hundred
from
of their
CCP's,
works.
CCP's collection.
Yeah.
So is this going to be a regular part of your program? Because I think it's important also for the Filipino audience to see what's in government offices, which were acquired really as part of our cultural patrimony.
Yeah, absolutely, Boots. Before chasing private collectors to make bequests and gifts, it's important for us to show that we've done the same first within our own sector, in the public sector. So bringing out things that are in the central bank, that are in Malacanang Palace, that are in the Department of Foreign Affairs, in our embassies around the world.
DBP has
and our
DAP,
government banks and corporations. Yeah, beautiful Manansala there
Philippine
at
Heart
the DBP, Heart Center. Even Manila International Airport Authority, we're looking after their Arturo Luz works that used to be in Terminal 1. So on and, yeah, things like that. For sure, that has to be our priority. And we've already positioned ourselves as the lead agency within the government for that. Yeah,
Thank you. Any more questions from the
yeah,
audience?
please.
In 2019, I went to see the ethnographic collection, and I was wonderfully overwhelmed. It really was. And, you know, we're talking about people going to the museums taking photos. I was taking photos of everything. I love textiles. And so my question was, I was looking for a catalog, and I haven't been back. I plan to go next week to the museums. And my question is there a catalog, comprehensive catalog of the important pieces of the ethnographic collection as well as the Fine Arts Museum? I don't know if it's in the making, or do you publish catalogs when you have major exhibits of certain things? 'Cause I would be very much interested in those.
Yeah, the second is what we have so far. We have catalogs of certain things that were the result of certain exhibition or gallery projects. For the textiles, we have a catalog. Yes, yes. Yes, the Hibla ng Lahing Filipino catalog. But it's already out of date, Almira. And so the larger answer is it's something we're working on to have a complete catalog of all the art and anthropological collections that will start being published this year in various stages. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you can, when you visit the museum, please inquire about the catalog for the textiles.
Definitely.
We don't have a shop, as you all know,
Yeah.
but we're starting. We have a couple of pop-up shops as a prelude to hopefully later this year a proper museum shop. But just ask at the front desk so that the
And there will be copies,
yes,
even of Hibla.
yes, the Hibla
Yeah.
catalog.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a quick question. How long do your temporary exhibits last? Like how many months and how much is in storage?
Yeah, we don't have a firm policy on the duration of temporary exhibits, but we have a working idea that they should be up for at least a year. Yeah, because we really want the numbers to come through and see them. If it's not worth keeping up for a year, it's not worth doing, was kind of, at least for the National Museum, because we are conscious of our audience, which is really the general public, people who've never been to museums before, or who don't know if they like museums yet. So we want, well, it's true. That's a large part of why we were able to get the legal mandate to have free admission, is we said that the National Museum is the place where people try out a museum and see if they like it, you know. And then they can go on to other museums, which do charge admission, because by then people would want a repeat of that experience and have figured out that, you know, they want to learn more and what can museums offer them. And so that's kind of our arrangement, why Ayala Museum has to be nice to us, and the other museum, Yuchenko. It's like, you know, help us out, because if they enjoy the National Museum for free, they'll come to Ayala Museum and pay, and other places. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, but we charge very little, 100 pesos only.
Well, we only charged 50 pesos to begin with, but it was keeping a lot of people away, you know.
I know. So I just want to go back to the point about publications. I think that's actually a challenging program for most museums. We have a small team, and it really takes a lot from our resources. Does the National Museum have a team that focuses on publications?
Yeah.
No? So
So we have a group. Before 2016, the answer was no. After 2016, we underwent a bit of a reorganization, and we had a new unit finally, dedicated to exhibitions and publications. So we had, it's called the Exhibition, Editorial, and Media Production Services Division. So this group covers exhibitions, publications, all media content, with our dream of producing documentaries and stuff like that, one day. Yeah, so they're becoming more and more active, and they're under Jurel. Jurel himself has publication experience from his previous job in at Qatar, and so it's one of his initiatives to kind of get that off the ground. Digital and physical publications.
Right.
Yeah.
And by exhibitions, you mean not the curatorial
No, the actual design.
design, okay.
Exhibition design and fabrication.
So that it would be consistent with publications and promotional.
So that we have
the image would be consistent. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, so that we have a National Museum kind of branding when it
Right,
comes
right.
to our exhibitions, and of course meeting the required standards. Yeah.
Question, yes.
Yeah, I really like the title of the talk, Sustaining Heritage. And I also like the contemporary legacies because, you know, the connection between heritage and legacies. But I have a plea. I travel a lot. I'm retired. I basically spent 6 months traveling around the world for the last 6 years.
Wow.
And all I do is visit museums. I'm a reasonably educated person. I actually, I'm quite glad Kidlat Tahimik's work is now with the museum. I had a good fortune of actually seeing it in Madrid and photographing it actually quite extensively. But my plea is, I sometimes go to museums and I truly can't relate to the art. Right. And I'm a reasonably educated person. Please make the artwork understandable to the regular people. And I really also appreciate that you're having sites outside of Manila. I was just in Batanes with Almira, and I really liked the National Museum in Batanes. So, good work.
Message received, yeah. I definitely, again, if we put objects on display and their significance or even the reason why they're on display is impenetrable to people, then we failed, right? So yeah, absolutely. That's very much a part of museum practice is making what you put out there accessible. Of course, whether you like the work of art or not is another question, right? But at least you'll know why it's important enough to confront you with. Yeah, yeah. And thank you for your comments on Batanes. Yeah, it's a wonderful little museum in a very culturally, naturally rich part of the country.
But difficult to visit. To go
Difficult
to.
and a bit-
challenging rather,
yeah.
but worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah,
I know.
and a bit costly because it's so remote.
But it's worth visiting at least once in your lifetime.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a question over there at the back.
Hi, Jeremy. This is Melvin.
Oh, hi, Melvin.
Hi. First of all, thank you for your talk. And you know, I've known you've been doing so much work for the National Museum. And my question is, because your topic is about sustaining heritage, the art fair is thriving because of you know, new art and the young. And my concern is that the people, most of the people in the room, including you, are like, we are like from the old school, right? And if you're talking about sustainability, I'd like to know if the National Museum has programs for the younger generations to take over, because they have a different way of looking at things. They have shorter memory. I'm not generalizing. So they have different sensibilities. So I'd like to know if the National Museum or any institution has programs to educate and rear the younger leaders, the next generation of art leaders.
Do you mean, Melvin, internally or publicly?
Maybe through the National Museum's programs.
Right, so publicly.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I refer that question to my colleague?
Here.
Hi, Melvin. Hello, everyone. Absolutely. We actually have, we've designed special guided tours for young people. We have what we call the Lakbay series. We have Lakbay for Kalikasan, Lakbay Sining, Lakbay Kultura. And all of those happen periodically and are announced on our social media pages. And we also conduct junior docent trainings at times as well. And that draws in a lot of interest from young people who aspire to work in museums or in other cultural institutions someday. So it is very promising. And because we also get a lot of support from our academic partners, and there's all these programs that are starting out as well, like arts management programs, for example, in colleges like De La Salle College of St. Benilde and even in Ateneo. Those have really generated so much interest among young people in heritage, conservation, and cultural work.
Yeah. And we, every year, of course, we accommodate, it may even be hundreds already, hundreds of senior high school students and on-the-job trainee type arrangements. Yeah.
One more question over there at the back.
Thanks, Melvin.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abay. I'm just an ordinary dad from Mandaluyong. So, thank you for the talk, Mr. Jeremy Barnes. Just want to ask your opinion, sir. You know, regard with our transportation, right? I mean, our transportation, especially urban, is getting worse. So, I just want to know what is there's a coming project with a collaboration with the government regards to for more easy, accessible, like walking, biking, and safe place, open space, so everyone can easily go to the National Museum. So, is there any expectation from the National Museum or other sector from the government? Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, that's a great question. In the museum, so most, if not all of you know where we are. It's not, well, where we are, of course, is in the heart of the city of Manila. So let me talk about our relationship with the city. We're always we're always encouraging the city to help solve issues so that our area becomes more accessible and more attractive for people to spend the day in. We haven't really made much progress with the present mayor. Previous mayor, we talked a lot, and well, I guess the answer is we try our best to make it worth coming. Once you're at the museum, you'll enjoy yourself, and but we're quite sorry for the experience you may have trying to get to us. The easiest way to get to the museum is if you happen to be able to take the LRT, since the station is just there. Otherwise, unless you're self-driving and willing to battle through the traffic, and then when you arrive, you'll have a hard time finding a parking space. For all of that, I apologize. All I can do is work with my colleagues like in Intramuros, in Rizal Park, to make it worth you all coming down and spending the day there. But we're very mindful that a lot could be done to improve accessibility, convenience, appeal for everyone in Metro Manila and beyond. Of course, for tourists, tourists will make a point of visiting, but for people who live here, we know it's quite difficult, especially to come again and again, because we have a lot of programs, we have a lot of events and activities, and to come regularly, it's quite difficult. Even our most ardent supporters complain about traffic and how hard it is. I'm thinking of Tita Maribel, Ong Pin, and even, so even people like that who live and breathe the museum, yeah. So I don't have an answer for you, sir, but we're definitely mindful. But we hope that we are positive when it comes to quality of life in this city, and we wish it connected to general life, living here, a bit better.
See, we have 2 more questions left.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, Jeremy. This is just a personal observation. Are there plans to make the Anthropology Museum as sexy and as Instagrammable as the National Museum of Fine Arts and the...
Yeah, well, okay, so if it wasn't clear from my presentation, we have 3 museums: fine arts, natural history, and anthropology. Anthropology shows our collections of our archaeological and ethnographic collections. And it is the least popular of the 3 for reasons I personally am trying to understand. Because I think it is the sexiest of the 3 personally, right? But yeah, there is an ongoing discussion of how to lift up the number, but the numbers don't lie. The numbers show it to be 3rd out of the 3 by a significant margin. And so that's something we're working on. Maybe Jarell can share like the latest thinking on that. But it is my favorite museum. That's what I was trying to say. But
Yeah. Although when we had Kidlat Tahimik's exhibition there, the numbers did spike up.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's just the way exhibitions are being curated, or kind of like how the stories are being told.
Yeah.
When you go into an ethnographic museum these days, you're looking for really more compelling stories and how you can really connect with what you're looking at. Because when you're looking at art, it's different from when you're looking at a basket or a pot or a burial jar. So we take that challenge very seriously. In fact, this year we're working on revamping 2 of our main galleries. So you'll hear more on those developments towards the end of the year. And we have a couple of exhibitions also lined up for this year as well, and next year for that particular museum. There's also other ways of activating some of the more what we call negative spaces, or like empty spaces, or weird, because it's an old building with weird corners and openings and cavities and whatnot. So we're looking at ways of developing interactive corners. In fact, our team was working on that, is over here. And we're looking at creative ways of making it more engaging for younger visitors, most especially.
Yeah, but definitely I think part of what we will do is how to make the stories more compelling to Filipinos in general. Yeah, mainstream Filipinos in general. That has to be part of the answer. Because, when you look at those baskets and textiles, yeah, what are the stories?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what makes them sexier, I suppose.
And also what we also realized in the process is that we have a number of exhibitions there right now, but there isn't really an exhibition that summarizes or makes anthropology in the Philippines comprehensive for the layman, or like a student who just wants kind of an easy to understand, kind of express narrative about why is anthropology significant in the Philippines? Who are the players back then? In fact, anthropology was what built the National Museum in the first place. So that's also a very important part of our history as an institution as well. So that's a story that could be told too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question.
Hi.
Freddie Quilizan. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Alfredo Quilizan. I'm a practicing artist, and we just moved back. Actually, been living overseas for quite some time. And at the moment, we're working with the Museo Pambata. We're actually helping them with the programming and so on. But one of the things that I've noticed is we have a few or a number of art institutions along Rojas Boulevard, from Cultural Center to Intramuros. And I'm wondering if there's some kind, this is in relation actually to the accessibility. There's some kind of a program or collaboration or dovetailing or linking all the institutions so that we can have some kind of an artwork, art walk, for example, no? And I think for us this is very important because when we went to Museo Pambata and we thought of like where are we going to go next, and I think for us I think those things are important, most especially probably for foreigners, no? So yeah.
Pasinaya started that already, although it's one day a year, or one weekend rather. It's a 3-day weekend. Yep.
Yeah, so exactly. So this idea has been piloted and happens once a year as part of the CCP's opening for Arts Month in February every year, where everyone comes together and there's a circuit and it's branded in a certain way. Yeah, so
Maybe on a more regular basis, because with Pasinaya the crowd can be quite heavy.
yes,
So
because
in
it's a
terms-
one weekend.
Yes. So maybe something more
affair,
regular,
yeah.
with I don't know if there are plans to do that.
Yeah, and that involves performances in the museum spaces and all kinds of things. So it's a bit intensive, but could that be institutionalized like halfway? Of course,
Yeah.
of course it could. I'm eager for the CCP to get back into business when the repairs and renovations are done, because I like to think we're the two anchor points at either end of the circuit. CCP over there and us over here in Rizal Park. So definitely it's something that is a frequent topic of discussion. It's been piloted, there's proof of concept, and it's about institutionalizing it and branding it and sustaining it.
I
But
think-
definitely the rationale is accepted already. Yeah. It's very effective.
There's a follow-through question?
Yeah, we've noticed also that the city of Manila closed down Rojas Boulevard every Sunday for like exercise and jogging and so on.
Yeah.
Maybe I think that would be a good day for all, well-being and culture. I mean, like art for the body and art for the mind, I think should also be.
And also with the recent opening of the Intramuros, the Museo de Intramuros.
Yeah, the tourism center.
Yes, so they actually they opened a very well-curated exhibition of their collection that's been in storage for many years. So I think that's a part of the trail, museum trail. Yep. Okay, so thank you, Jeremy
my
and
pleasure.
Jarell. Thank you for sharing the National Museum, and we look forward to visiting more often.